So the Afrikaner Leadership Network has previously indicated that they will be reaching out to the ANC government to find solutions for the country's socio-economic challenges. The network hopes to convince the party of the necessity to conclude a cultural accord with Afrikaners for the sake of stability and for the benefit of the country and its people. Well, given the current status of the country following the outcomes of the general elections, what conversations will the Afrikaner Leadership Network be bringing to the table? Well, to answer that question, we are joined now by Dr. Theuns Eloff, Chairperson of the Afrikaner Leadership Network. A good morning to you, Dr. Eloff. Really good to have you with us. I think let's start with what happened pre-elections. The Afrikaner Leadership Network reaching out to the ANC saying, let's talk about the socio-economic conditions and state of our country. What was the response that you got before the elections?
Well, you know, we didn't necessarily reach out to the ANC government specifically. It was a public declaration. We had various reactions. I think the first reaction was one from the presidency saying they didn't see the need of this. But then former President Mbeki welcomed it, and simultaneously he aired the notion of a national dialogue after the election. And that was supported by President Ramaphosa. We've had, in the meantime, in the last week, also the ANC reaching out to us as a network to discuss possibilities in terms of support. It was at a time when they had not yet reached their decision about the Government of National Unity. They were considering certain aspects of it. And that led also to a meeting of the Solidarity Network, Solidarity Movement, in which they gave conditional support to the Government of National Unity. The Afrikaner Leadership Network is meeting on Tuesday, coming Tuesday, to see what we could and should do. Now, I may say that the offer that we made to help with the country still stands, but we had some reservations about BELA, the Basic Education Law Amendment Bill, and that was passed by Parliament, but it had not yet been signed by the President. So in the new dispensation, I think we feel that whoever is in government, we would still want to approach them for a cultural accord, and then also obviously to offer our services through our various organizations, of which the Solidarity Movement is ostensibly the biggest. Obviously, if there will be a workable Government of National Unity, we think it will complicate things on the one hand, because you have to talk to more than one party, the ANC. On the other hand, there may be support for such a cultural accord in the ranks of that Government of National Unity. Yeah,
just to take a few steps back, it's interesting because you speak about after the election results, the ANC reaching out to the network and to the Solidarity Group asking for help or assistance. What was it exactly that they were asking for?
Well, we had a meeting on Sunday, a few of us, with some ANC officials. I wouldn't want to divulge their names, but they were senior officials, in discussions of how do we see possible cooperation between the ANC and then especially parties who normally have the support of Afrikaners. We obviously said we can't speak for such parties. Probably they mean the DA and the Freedom Front Plus, but we would support, if asked, we would support such a notion, and we've given that message to them. We will probably in the next week or so again have a discussion. They are, from the ANC side, they are specifically interested in the role we could play in the national dialogue. As one interest group, obviously there are many. You have churches, you have business, you have other communities who might want to participate. And it seems to me that the plan is that this national dialogue would be a project of the Government of National Unity to forge unity not only on the political side, but also in the civil service. And that they see that the Afrikaner Leadership Network could play a role with others in that process.
And just to get some clarity here is, I mean, one thing that we heard on Thursday evening from the president of the ANC was that they're looking to have dialogue with political parties on the way forward to form the government of national unity. So the role that they're asking you to play in the national dialogue, that's not just for clarity here. We're not talking about the leadership, the Afrikaner Leadership Network participating in the dialogue with political parties?
No. No, those discussions must take place between political parties. As you may remember, we have clearly said that we are not a political player in the declaration. We are part of civil society. We want to hold all parties accountable as others. So this is more about behind-the-scenes support, but especially then in the national dialogue when that process gets started. And the time frame at the time was July to September to set that national dialogue up. And we're obviously ready with that. We have a declaration on which to start discussions, but there will be many inputs in that process.
I mean, how would you characterize then those dialogues that you're saying are set down for July to September? I mean, it's interesting because you've got so many. It's hard to deny, right? You hear government of national unity and there's the comparison to 1994's government of national unity. Then this idea of talks with the civil society and various groups like the Afrikaner Leadership Network. It's very difficult to not sort of liken that to CODESA talks and even perhaps TRC talks. I mean, so how do you characterize what those talks essentially are meant to do in the new dispensation?
My sense is that if the government of national unity has a chance to work, and believe me, you know this, that it will be difficult. There will be many discussions still before that is formed. And even after it had been formed, there will be discussions and disagreements, and there will have to be dispute resolution mechanisms, etc., etc. My sense is that a real national dialogue, so not just among the parties, but among the whole of society in the different organizations. So it's business, labor, NGOs, communities, the religious community. To bring them together would be a big project. And my sense is that could help the new government set an agenda and get some consensus on the ground for their program, because they will have to have a program that will have to compromise.
Yeah.
So the ANC can't just go on, or the DA or the IFP can go on their own. They will, and I think they will take a lead from civil society to say, where are our priorities? Where should our priorities be? Where can we find consensus on the way forward? Almost a priority agenda, setting a priority agenda through civil society.
I mean, one of the things that's happening around this time is we're speaking to everybody, right? And by bodies, I mean actual bodies, whether it be political parties, civil society organizations, business community, to hear, okay, what is the modality of this government of national unity that your sector would want to see? What is it that the Afrikaner leadership then puts on the table when we say, what do you want to see this government of national unity looking like?
Well, I think we're probably on record, and I know that Solidarity has made some public statements about this, that they don't see a government of national unity working with MK and EFF in it. At the moment, as I understand it and read the media, both have denied participation in that. It seems to me that the ANC would go ahead with, call it the centrist parties in that government of national unity, and I think we would be happy to work with such a government of national unity. I think if for instance the other side, the other possibility would come to fruition, an ANC, MK, EFF government of national unity, excluding the centrist parties, they would probably not want the help of Afrikaners. They probably wouldn't want to speak to Afrikaners. So I think it's clear from our side that ANC centrist type of government of national unity would be, in our view, more beneficial to the country as a whole and all its people, as well as to cooperation between civil society and the Afrikaners specifically and such a government.
Yeah, there's lots to talk about as these decisions are made by political leaders, but we really do appreciate your input and certainly updating us on the deliberations that the Leadership Network, the Afrikaner Leadership Network and the Solidarity Group has had with the ANC after the election results were announced last Sunday.